Hey everybody, welcome back.
Hello,
Okay,
we're
so
back.
so we went so this week we went through my brain. Sorry. I needed to look at my notes to remember where exactly we were. Man, I have a lot of notes for this week. Uh
Yeah,
Sonic
stuff
issues
happens.
yeah, Sonic issues 37 through 40, and that includes the Mecha Madness special, which is a sequel to 39.
Yeah.
So, I have a question for you.
Uh-huh.
Did you give any of these lower than a silver?
Um,
Like any of these stories?
I I did not actually. We had a pretty good run of chapters, except for that one scene with Bunny, and we'll talk about that because I just think it's Americans not realizing the ramifications of what they're talking about.
I
But we'll
okay.
get to that point.
Because I don't think I gave any of these lower than a gold except for one issue. And we're gonna talk about that and the reason why I gave it so low. And I honestly believe that it's because of the things that came after that, okay? And
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna just start with 37.
Yeah, as we
Uh,
do.
so let
Once
me just
again, recover from Spaz.
yeah,
Does
it, it
such good work.
it's it's one of the I don't want to say more iconic ones, but it's definitely one of them.
You mean like the Superman-esque pose Sonic's doing here?
Yeah,
It's very Superman.
it's a very early like comics vibe to this one. Okay, so the whole plot of this comic and effectively setting up the plot for the next few issues in total is that we're about to have what I put into my notes as an interesting sea change in a lot of things that is going here. So uh
I would definitely say this is where the war begins in the comic. Because before this, it's been fun, quirky little tales of like a group of kids trying to fight a megalomaniacal cartoon character. And it goes from that to actually feeling like a war with consequence,
so
which I think they tried to do in other issues, but they haven't done as well until now.
so I feel like I need because we have so many writers and artists working on this, I need to actually start stating who did what on each comic now. So
Yeah.
written by DeCesar and art by Brian Thomas again. Uh this entire issue is setting up what is effectively going to be a setting change for Robotropolis as a whole, because because Uncle Chuck brings a piece of information to Sally directly, saying that there is going to be a massive earthquake that rocks all of Robotropolis, and because of that, it's going to make a lot of the buildings collapse. Is going to make like a lot of damage to things, but more specifically, Robotnik is planning on just like getting into one of his like flying vehicles and just staying above the city until things resolve. But he's gonna leave most of the roboticized civilians in the city because he doesn't really care about them as much. He's gonna
Nah, not his creations.
and he could always rebuild more, and he's packing really light in the saucer that he's taking, which is incredibly fascinating. I scroll down to remind myself, and
I like the spike hat.
yeah,
I like the spikes on top. It's very indicative of the style they're trying to do, which comes from the various TV shows.
yeah. Uh, I was scrolling down, and I was reminded of this panel, but the earthquake starts happening as Sonic and Sally are in the city trying to get the last of the roboticized people out. Like, even if they can't really like go against their programming, Uncle Chuck hopes that he's going to be able to at least convert some of them back to the way that they are. There, I just posted the panel I was looking at. Um, and that is a very
Oh yeah,
interesting Sally face. I will say.
yeah. They haven't nailed down how to draw her eyes yet in lots of these panels. Everyone else is fine,
Yeah, it
except
really.
for Sally once again. And whenever she closes her eyes, she's fine.
Uh,
Or whenever
s-
you see her from farther away.
so while they're trying to get people out, Uncle Chuck basically stays back and he activates the derobotization like device, and every single one of the Robotropolis citizens get turned back into Mobians and they start falling out. Sonic then looks over at Uncle Chuck.
Including Mickey Mouse right there in
Yeah,
that one panel. One of these guys just looks like Mickey Mouse. The other one is Tommy,
yeah.
and we will get back to Tommy.
Uh, and Sonic notices that Uncle Chuck did not actually stand into the robotization beam, and he asks why, and he directly says, "I'm much more valuable as a bot right now. My turn will come someday. Besides," and then he kind of like turns his attention elsewhere. I'm about to spoil something that doesn't come up later, like very later in the comics, but if you notice, there aren't any hedgehogs in any of the
Yeah.
shots uh around,
Not
and we
even in the bot overview when we see the bots here,
yeah,
none of them are hedgehogs. None of them are even kind of close. We
and
see a turtle back there, I think, in the one where Chuck is counting down, but we don't see any hedgehogs.
this is going to be revealed like a lot later, but Sonic's dad is actually kind of important of a person, and it's kind of interesting that Chuck was like looking around and going, "Uh-oh. Uh
Yeah,
he's not here.
which is
I need
not
to keep
good.
finding him." And I
Yeah,
think that
because so far,
that's the real reason why Sonic is so dead set on getting all these people out. The reason why Chuck doesn't want to roboticize himself yet, because he knows that there's still family that is lost here that they need to find. And
and it, yeah.
it's good foreshadowing, even if it wasn't intentional.
Oh no, it wasn't at all. The only family we've met so far is Sally's dad. Um,
No,
because in comics,
we saw Rotor's family. They're currently sitting on the
oh
iceberg.
yeah, that's right. I'm terribly sorry. I always forget about Rotor's family because of how filthy they do him every time. That was so rude of me. I'm sorry, Rotor. I'm terribly sorry. You didn't deserve that.
So on the way out, Sally gets hit by some rubble, and Sonic is using Nicole to
Conveniently, I
basically,
might add.
yeah, Sonic is using Nicole to like worm his way through the falling debris maze, and he gets out at a what was it a 12% survival of error, and it's like
Yeah.
yeah, it's like there he goes
So was
once
that like
again.
12% in total, or was it just a 1% with a 12% margin of error?
I think that it is a 12% chance that they both get out completely without getting much harm done to them. But either
Yeah.
way, like Sonic once again does not care about stringent things like numbers and just does it anyway.
Sometimes I don't think he can count, you know,
And
unless food's involved.
after everyone makes it
And
back
it's
relative
probably best that way.
yeah, once they make it back relatively safely, we get 2 pages of showing what Robotnik and Snively are up to, and they're entering the city again, and then Snively accidentally activates the force field a little bit too soon, and it just fries their entire ship, as he
You know
does.
what? Couldn't have happened to a better person, really.
For a final note on this issue, it's actually kind of funny. But then we get into the B side, which I immediately was taken back because I did not know that this was happening as early in the comics.
I
Uh,
know, right? I forgot too. I thought it was at least after, um, issue 50. And
and
I was like, oh, oh no, oh no.
and we now get a completely new person, I believe. I don't think we've seen them do a major role as in story and art. Um, but this person is doing it combined together. This is Rich Kolowski, and he is doing a Bunny Rabbit B-side, which is fascinating. We haven't had one of her. She's like the only, well, besides
No,
Antoine, but like,
no,
who really
we
cares?
had one.
Uh,
We had little bunny with the emerald heist,
oh, right, right, right. So I guess Antoine is the only
and
one
we
that
also
hasn't
had
had a
one.
dedicated B-side yet.
Yeah, but that's because the authors and the staff don't care about him yet.
And
They don't start caring about him until we learn more about Amy.
yeah, I guess.
Even then, he's playing second fiddle. So
So Bunny starts getting like this like weird like rash coming out of where the metal on her shoulder meets like her still like non-roboticized body. And Rotor notices that this isn't just like a normal infection, it's cybernetic uh it's a cybernetic infection that is slowly leaching into the rest of her body. And within the span of like a single page, her other arm gets roboticized and like a lot of like her upper body too. And she's like, this is bad, guys. And Robotnik, showing with regular eyes for some reason, very strange. Uh,
no, it's he had to like I didn't think he still had eyeballs.
uh, he appears out of a projector that is coming out of Bunny's hand and says, "I implanted a microscopic device to completely roboticize your body. Within the next few minutes, you are going to start attacking your friends and then wirelessly transmit your location to where I am." And so Bunny instantly like starts panicking. Uh, she like writes a like note to her friends of like that she's gonna go and not really like she hopefully is going to not become such a burden on them and runs out into the middle of the forest as far as she can.
We do have a moment though where Anton is pushing. It's like there's like some way we can take care of this, right? Which is very nice on his part.
Yeah, it's like it and it's
Like
like even if they were to remove all the infection that is still there, it's these implant will still keep going. And it's like, "Oh, okay, so it's just total." And Bunny goes so far into the wilderness that she just basically collapses from exhaustion and then wakes up that day. She wakes up earlier because she was kind of lounging around like waiting for stuff to happen as like the rest of the team were playing
it seemed
sports and
like she
stuff.
was on guard. It seemed like she was on guard for the group,
Yeah, and then when she
which
wakes
would
up,
be a smart thing to do.
yeah, she realizes that all of that's still going on and she just had a bad dream. And Bunny was like, "Oh, that's relieving." And Sally's like, "Oh, have you been having nightmares again?" And she's like, "I guess." And then it's just like, "Oh, I don't think there's anything to worry about." And the final panel is just Bunny looking really worried, going, "Yeah, you're right, I hope." And it's really
Uh-huh.
fascinating because this is a persistent fear that Bunny kind of has in the back of her mind for like the entire rest of her involvement in the comic, where she's constantly worried that her being partially roboticized is going to come back and bite them eventually. And I think I mentioned this last week, but uh Bunny doesn't want to be de-roboticized, not because it like irritates her, but it gives her a form of it gives her a form of
She feels
empowerment that she
useful.
didn't have before. And she feels
Yeah, she
powerful
feels
with it.
useful to the group.
Yeah, and it's this fine line of I am being useful to the group, but if I am too roboticized, then I no longer am needed in the group. And if I get rid of the stuff, then I'm not needed. Yeah, not needed, not wanted, halfway in between. And then it's like it's this like interesting like little bit of like introspection with Bunny that we kind of deep dive later. And I was really confused because she eventually later does get something like this, and it leads to like a lot of personal drama with herself. And I thought that it was like, wow, this happens a lot sooner than I thought. It's like, oh wait, no, they just revisit this later. Okay.
Yeah,
Uh,
someone looks at the notes and goes, "Oh yeah, we can bring a character more suffering. Excellent. Let's do it."
so I came out of reading this comic and I was actually really high on it. I was actually
Oh
feeling really
yeah.
good about it. I gave this one a gold in my notes, and I was trying to find reasons to make it a silver, but I just really couldn't. Mostly
This
because
one's definitely a gold.
there's a lot of stuff that tie back in later, like even if
Uh-huh.
incidentally, that I really
Yeah.
feel works for this issue.
Uh-huh.
Did you have any other notes on it?
I think it's a gold because both, you know, it's the first time in like a while where both of the sections of the comic works well. And not only works well in the here and now, but in the future. So it's definitely a gold because it doesn't step on anything.
Okay, so let's move on to issue 38. I have a lot of problems with this one,
Oh
like
yeah,
a lot,
this one.
and I think it
And
all really.
actually the least of which is Sonic singing his own theme song at the start.
Uh,
That's like the least of my concerns.
so Kent Taylor on script and Manny Gallian on art. I don't think we have heard of either of these two as well, which immediately like set me off. Like in the back of my brain, I'm going like, oh, that's weird. There's a lot of new people I've never heard of before, like now in the comic. That's interesting. And the artwork instantly gave me vibes of how it felt later. Like when it comes of the way that the art looks, it looks more
Hmm.
like stuff
Yeah,
that you would see it during the World Journey saga or into the Adventure series, where it's like, oh,
yeah,
this art is a lot more modern than former DC and Marvel artists making stuff for Archie, and so you have to do this like faux DC Marvel art with with the Archie colors and stuff. And so I was like, huh, that's weird. I was like, this feels a little bit
yeah. Everyone
ahead.
looks a little bit. Yeah, this one looks a little bit too humanoid in some places. It touches the uncanny valley. It's
Uh
not the worst comic though. I
uh
enjoyed it.
the the panel of Robotnik with the I'm bad sticker just looking straight at the screen is so disconcerting. I'm like, why does your head look like
I
that?
know.
It looks stranger than
It's like,
normal.
sir, It's like, sir, oh, put away your teeth, please. We don't want that.
The panel of Rotor kind of like grabbing his like chin as he's thinking is oddly off
Hmm.
model, but it makes him look a lot older than he normally would be. He honestly kind of
Hmm.
has that sort of like wise old that smarter older brother sort of vibe to him in this whole issue actually.
Yeah. He feels like the responsible one,
But yeah, so
which he should be.
the plot of this issue is not an amnesia storyline, but it is just as stupid. It is main character gets his power turned off. Uh-oh.
Hmm.
The
And
entire the
it
entire
happens
story
at least 3 or 4 times.
yeah, the entire story is about getting his power back. And it's like, "Oh, okay. Oh wait, the story's over." Yeah, the story's over. Oh, okay. And it's like,
We see Dog again plus Mantis Man, who I believe this is his first appearance.
"Yeah, I think so." Um
Yeah.
um like literally they go to a ring lake to try to like revive the like power of the ring that he is currently holding so he can like super boost himself into getting his speed back. And it feels like it happens so suddenly that it's like you're reading from one panel to another and now he's just with super speed. I'm like, "Oh, okay, so he's there now." Okay?
Yep.
Uh it's actually kind of funny because there's like this whole moment where Sally and the crew like get captured because Sonic really can't do anything, and then the B team shows up and it's like, "Oh, hey, the trainees are here." And it's like, "Okay." And then they go to their base and there's a uh
I ref- I've begun to affectionately in my head call this team Sally's backup dancers.
fair enough. Uh
Yeah.
so they meet with their interim leader who is Fly Freddy, who is a giant insectoid. Which is weird
Yeah.
considering that we've already read the story about the fire ants that Knuckles are
Hmm.
hanging out with, and they are also and they are not human they are not the same size as the rest of the characters. They're like appropriately sized for actual like fire ants compared to like the rest of them. So I'm immediately put off by this gigantic insectoid creature. I'm like, "Oh, okay." But this guy
I
apparently
know it. I was a bit jarring too. It's like, huh,
yeah, but
man-sized, man-sized creature. This will
uh
not be the last time we are off put by something not being the size and sentience it should be.
so this guy is apparently the boss of the dog and cat that were like spies around. It was like, "Oh, okay." So we're flushing out a little bit more of the extraneous teams. Okay, that's kind of
Hmm.
cool. And there's this interesting moment. I guess I would consider it an interesting moment where Sonic is like running around like getting all the rings. He looks over and he sees another ring stuck in a robot that he had shoved into earlier. And then when he gets all three of them, he basically gets his speed back. So I was like, "Oh, okay."
Uh-huh.
And Robotnik is saying there was like, "Okay, I had enough." And then he activates a trap door, and him and his chair dragging Snively down just falls into this hole, going, "I'm gonna be gone now." And
It's
it's like,
like, well, Plan Q didn't work. Well, I'll try again tomorrow.
yeah, and then the whole thing explodes. And then in the final panel, a small little circle in the corner is Knack the Weasel going, "Oh, hey, I'm showing up in the next issue." I'm like, what?"
You weren't even in this one. I had to reread it to make sure he wasn't in this one.
So, So the B-side is a small little cute comic about like Tails recounting the
Fantastic
story
Four.
of the Fantastic Four to Sonic as he's sick. And if you know anything about old Marvel, it just tickles me that I'm like, oh, okay, it's cute. Where it's like they're making a lot of like
Mhm.
old Marvel references that like not many kids would know, but like these are like stuff from like from like the golden age of golden and silver age of comics. Like there's this one moment where it's like, how do we get rid of Robotnik Galactus? And they're like, oh yeah, we'll just bring out the Hostess fruit pies and just throw it at him. I'm like, okay, I forgot that these guys
That's
actually
so
worked on
Silver
that
Age at
era.
first.
It's like it's a good reference.
Other things that also worked: a dog with a shoe.
I'm
And I
trying to
understand it if no one gets that reference. It's okay.
yeah, and then it's like, okay, so Sonic is then gonna make his own comic to talk to Tales about, which is a reference of Batman, which honestly is like kind of cute. Where it's like, okay, I'll just make my own from like the other side of the
Of
comics
the
industry.
spectrum.
Also, there's a very
It's
interest.
wild that they could do this back in the day.
Yeah. Also, I love how they snuck in a panel of Sally holding a gun. Let's just actually, do you know what? I'm going to actually bump my score up from a bronze to a silver on this one just because they included a shot of Sally with a gun, which will always give it an additional 5 points for me.
Oh yes. It's like that raises like the whole thing. And there's just normal animals here
Yeah,
that speak. Weird. In
it's a,
most comics it wouldn't be weird. In this one it's very weird.
yeah, so the A side is kind of bad. The B side is inoffensive, but it's kind of lackluster. Um and that's all I really have to say about it. Like, what did you give this one?
Definitely a low silver. You know, the bar's been raised and lowered enough where where that's just a silver. That's just a normal comic.
Uh, Speaking of normalcy, let's just throw it into the trash. Sonic gets roboticized in issue 39.
Yeah,
Uh,
he's on the cover too. He has a sick look.
Issue 39, I
I really
honestly believe
wish.
is one of my favorite pieces of Spaziante's work, where it comes from the
Oh, it's so
cover to
good.
the inside. It's some like the best looking art that he's done.
They just let him go wild. And the only letdown in this is that there's no Metal Sonic to compete with this.
Yeah,
He
it's
doesn't
like
even show up,
there is
which
a
is
difference
very
between
rude.
like we have to be very careful because there is a difference between Metal Sonic, Mecha Sonic, and Silver Sonic, and all three of those are considered the exact same thing in like Japanese translations. And so it's like, okay, we gotta like make sure that like we have our lines crossed here. Uh, Metal Sonic is a learning AI that is trying to compete with Sonic so hard that he starts becoming more Sonic than robot. You know, Mecha Sonic
Hmm.
is a roboticized version of Sonic, which still
He
has
is
his original
very dangerous.
personality and powers, but is just metal and is being controlled completely by Robotnik. Silver Sonic
And they
is a
lean into the horror of it too.
yeah, Silver Sonic comes a lot later, but there is definitely a difference between uh what Silver Sonic is capable of doing and what Metal Sonic is capable of doing. I do not feel like there is a chance that Silver Sonic could be as powerful as Metal Sonic, but Metal Sonic
Oh,
goes above
absolutely
and
not.
beyond his programming, like a lot of the
Yeah.
times.
He's got competition going for him. Silver Sonic just doesn't have that.
Yeah. So when I opened issue 39, I instantly got my answer as to why there was a bunch of guest writers and why the last two issues didn't really feel as good as they could have been. And it,
Yeah, because they were all working on this one.
yeah, writing by Mike Gallagher and art by Spaziante. And you instantly go, "Oh, okay." Because they're working on not only this but Mecha Madness as well, which is the follow-up to
Oh yeah,
this.
they had their hands full.
And the issue immediately starts with Sally telling Sonic, "No, we're not doing that." And Sonic is like, "Oh, come on." And I was like, "Okay, what did we walk into?" And it's like, "Well, Sonic wants to be roboticized with the special chip that makes it so that he can't be de-roboticized because he believes that if he does this, uh, question mark?" Okay, so
Yeah,
Sonic
not
doesn't
the
really have a
funniest
very
moment.
firm plan of what he's going to be doing, but he wants to be roboticized so he could go into Robotropolis and basically become a destruction bomb for like everything in there. And it's like, and Sully rightfully tells him, "You have no plan, shut up and sit down."
Yeah, it's like this is a bad idea. Don't do it. We'll talk about this more after we all calm down and think about it.
Sonic basically just yells, "Okay, I can take a hint," and then just walks out of the room, like, angrily. And Sally
As
then
it turned out,
immediately
Sonic the
turns
Hedgehog could not take a hint.
Sally immediately turns her cannons towards Antoine, going, "Don't even suggest anything." It's like, "Oh, I don't know what you're talking about." And it's like,
It's because she could hear him murmuring under his breath from like across the table.
yeah,
He's not that far away.
he's like, maybe we should put like armed guards on Sonic so like he doesn't do anything stupid. And she's like, "No, we're not doing that." Meanwhile, Sonic should have had some armed guards on him because he immediately gets taken out by Knack. So Sonic goes to,
With a dumbbell
yeah.
too. He
So
just gets he just gets beamed.
so there is apparently a place out way on the edge of Knothole that is not actually connected to the town. That is called the Knothole Jailhouse, and attached to it is a freedom fighters training facility that the B team is basically using as a temporary base at this point. You know, kind of filling out a little bit of the like map of this world a little bit. And the second he enters,
Hmm.
Knack just basically drops 100 pounds of metal onto his head, going, "Well, that should knock him out for a while." It's
He
like,
have that hidden to drop onto him. I can see the rope and the pulley, but he basically performed the bucket over the door trick.
Knack says the immediately classic line, "Ah, just the dumbbell I hope to see," just drops it on him. And I'm like, "Thanks, Knack.
It's
Thanks."
real good. It's it's real funny. I was like, ah, some brevity before the body horror. Excellent.
The page then flips, and what I could almost hear as classical music that is like stock from like a, a a PBS like local station show starts playing as you see Robotnik in a
The Archer
chair
style.
with the sign Masterbot Theater above him as he says, "Ah, welcome back, gentle reader. Now where were we?" And he pulls out the script going, "Ah, yes. Renegade Bounty Hunter Knack the Weasel captured Sonic and he is delivered." As he like turns around and he's now sitting there. I'm like, Robotnik, why did you do this gag? It's like, what was the purpose?
Did you have Knack wait there while you set this up? Also, picture of grandfather in the background.
Yes. Well, once again, alluding to like family that he has that he does not talk about, mostly because uh Do I want to spoil that yet? I don't think I want to spoil that yet, of like where
No,
his family
no,
went.
we don't want to spoil that. We don't want to spoil that yet.
Huh.
That'll be in like 100 issues.
Although I do like the panel. I have to quote the panel. It's like, oh wait, that looks like my brother. Wait, no, that's the other Robotnik's brother. Never mind. It presses the button to blow him up. It's just really funny. We get to that so much later,
Oh
but it's
yeah,
such a good panel. Um,
it's a really good bit.
so Knack wants some form of compensation for capturing Sonic, and he goes, "Oh, don't worry."
As he should.
And Robotnik then presses a button, and the Crabbot that always, like in the earlier comics, like stayed around Robotnik as like a personal assistant, instantly grows large and then just launches Knack across the city. And it's like, oh, I guess that's his form of compensation. Okay, free travel, nice. As as Robotnik then shoves Sonic into the roboticizer, as his entire body then becomes a network of microchips, like in one tiny panel in the middle of the screen, and then he breaks
And he
out.
is screaming. He is feeling it.
Yeah, he then breaks out of the glass as Mecha Sonic, and within like a single page, demolishes that crab meat and just
Yeah, quite
lays waste to
quickly.
it. And Robotnik is like, oh, this is perfect. And he goes, well, you know the location of Knothole Village. Go and kill everyone. Sonic is like, sure. And he
He just does
immediately
it.
does that.
Oh yeah, and it's awful.
And so Sally's like, well, this sucks. And I was like immediately like
It's
knows
so
what's
bad.
up the second that like he starts getting closer and like he could get readings from Nicole. But the
Yeah, it's almost like they've had too many close encounters of things getting too close to their base to really allow more things to get closer
like
without them knowing.
Antoine immediately starts getting upset because he is under the impression that Sonic went out of his way to do his plan anyway without consulting any of them. And they do this like whole trick with like holograms and stuff to like distract Mecha Sonic as he's doing all this. As like Sally's like very quickly trying to like come up with any form of like plan to like
Yeah,
make sure that like they can save Sonic and get him to a deroboticizer like as fast as possible because Sonic is basically transmitting his location at all times. And it would be really bad if Robotnik gets the location of Knothole City. As everyone knows, that is the one thing that he cannot have is the location of Knothole as a village. Something he possibly has already gotten multiple times by this point, but who knows? Uh, so out of nowhere, Bunny uppercuts him as they are basically having a battle in the air, and it's a pretty good fight scene overall. Like Bunny's pulling out new tech that she's never
oh
used before.
yeah.
Like uh, I can't remember if
Well, she's used parts of this in other stories. She's used the extendo legs. I
she's
think they've
showing
had
off.
force fields in other things.
Yeah, but like her force field is like now being like really shown off. So it's like, oh, that's
Yeah.
kind of cool. And Sally then uses Nicole, which I just kind of noticed as I was looking back through the panels. Nicole between pages becomes way too big
Oh yeah.
in one panel, and I'm like, that's a bit weird. But maybe it was just a weird oversight and like some angle. and it cuts over to Tails, who is basically running like most of like the radio equipment. And Sally basically asked him to do like a full sweep of stuff. And it's like, "Oh, okay." And um Tails is like, "Man, I can't believe I'm now being treated as an adult, even though I went on my whole solo adventure." And then Sally keeps treating him like a child through it. And it's just like, "Come on." It's like, at least I'm doing something.
Yeah. And plus, he doesn't have time to brush his teeth. This is an emergency.
So I flip the page, and Robotnik is in his footy pajamas, and I'm like, "What the?" And it's like, here I am, relaxing to the sight of Mecha Sonic beating up a bunny on a widescreen that he is watching the whole battle on. And I'm like, "Oh, interesting. You have like a readout for that type of thing." And Robotnik then gets back into his regular suit, going, "Okay, so I need a little bit more power," and just juices up Mecha Sonic from a distance to give him more power. And in doing so, basically incapacitates Bunny.
He electrocutes her.
Yeah, she's kind of banged up, but like she focuses everything into her robotic hand and uses that as a giant laser that is showcased on a full page spread of her shooting Mechasonic, and he casually blocks it as he goes,
Because he's
"Cool."
Sonic.
And then he shoots her back, and then she just flies off and just crashing into the ground. I was like, dang. Uh, sorry to hear that, Bunny.
I was
Me-
like, wow, your best attack did nothing.
meanwhile,
Dreadfully sorry. Didn't even scratch the paint.
uh, meanwhile with Tails, he's like, Sonic is still coming towards the village. We need your help. As he turns towards the shadowy figure that is clearly Knuckles, and he goes, like, "I'm glad you're here to help. Can you do this?" And he goes, "What do you mean? I'm already on my way over there to beat Sonic up because it's always a good day when Knuckles and Sonic fight."
It's like Knuckles' favorite thing. If he gets to punch Sonic's teeth in, he's having fun. Because
Knuckles,
nothing happens on his island yet.
yeah, Knuckles like gets up into the air, starts fist fighting with him. Sonic uses like Ray Vision to like knock Knuckles back down to the ground as well for Rotor to catch with the giant net, which I found was kind of funny.
Mm-hmm. And he is at Knothole's gate.
And Sally institutes Operation Last Resort, which then proudly proclaims will be continued in Mecha Madness.
Yeah,
And I'm like, that is a pretty good lead up to Mecha Madness as a whole. And if I gave it anything lower than a gold, I could not live with myself, to be honest.
yeah.
I'm guessing you did the
That
same.
issue was pretty good. Oh, yeah. It was pretty good. A good choreographed fight scene. They let Spazantine do the art. It's a good day. Any day that Spazantine is doing the artwork, perfect.
Yeah. So then, eh, where is it? Oh, there it is. Okay, so we then have the thing that everyone has been waiting for, which is Mecha Madness, which is one of
I love
I
I
think
love the page after the cover where we just see Sonic like screaming in the background.
yeah, and it
Very
looks like
good.
that he's all static in the shadow. It's really good.
Hmm.
So Mecha Madness still to this day is one of the highest rated like Sonic comics of all time. It's
Oh,
like
it's so good.
it's in the top like 20. And I'm like that's still impressive even after everything like it's still really high
And
up
it's got
there.
some competition too.
It also has like the factor that this is like one of the biggest like moments in classic Sonic, which I had to
Yeah.
explain to someone that classic Sonic as a whole does not really end until issue 72. And without spoiling
Yeah.
it, there's a distinct reason why you put that break there, because 72 you basically get a completely different comic at that point. And when it comes to classic Sonic though, you see on this cover a flaming Robotnik uh as Knothole burns down as Sonic and Knuckles, both in mechanized form, are fighting each other in the center of the page. It's so good. Um, Going into it
Oh
though,
yeah.
very quick recap, and then immediately back into the comic where they're like, okay, so what are we gonna do now? And it's like, well, Sonic is currently burning down Knothole. This is not a good thing. And Sally blatantly says Sonic's behavior borders on mutiny at this point. And Antoine immediately gets the biggest smile on his face, going, "I will be happy to submit the forms."
It's like I knew this day was coming. I have had the forms half filled out on my desk as we speak.
And
What do you want me to do with Knuckles in the meantime?
as they're talking, Rotor wheels up an old rusted piece of machinery as they say
I
exactly what
think
this
it's
thing
the
is.
one that got funny.
Yeah, it is
I think it's that one.
the old decommissioned roboticizer from way back in issue 3 that it's like, well, we can still use this, and we have also retrofitted it with a de-roboticizer. So all we would have to do is just put Sonic and Knuckles through this. It just takes a longer process to do that. Um,
Yeah.
like coming
And
back out
this
the other side.
presumably is what they've been running. This presumably is what they've been running all their tests on.
Yeah, and it's like it's still damaged, but it's pretty operational. We just need to make sure that nothing happens to this. We get Knuckles into it. He turns into a robot, fights with Sonic. We put both of them back in. And it's like, oh, okay. How do you feel about this, Knuckles? As Knuckles is like slowly waking up, he's like, oh, what's going on? And then punches Antoine in the face. I was like, oh,
Because
I guess he's still
Anton can't
delirious.
win, even when he wins.
Knuckles then in his like blurry state punches Rotor and then immediately gets his back broken by Sally. And I was like, way to take initiative, Sally. And immediately when Knuckles realizes he's standing next to the princess, he immediately starts waxing nostalgically about like their past and stuff. Just so we are reminded, Knuckles and Sally have a past together, and both of them look onto it very
Uh-huh.
fondly.
You know, this relationship makes 1,000 times more sense than Joffrey. They should have gone with this one. It would have been more of a stab in the back.
Yeah, it's actually really interesting because I've noticed this that both of the last specials that we have actually done, which both have been written by Gallagher, both include a love triangle between Sally, Knuckles, and then Sonic, with Sonic and Knuckles being at rivals with each other. And honestly, this is
Uh-huh.
a
And it's
much
handled way better.
yeah, it's a much better love triangle than Ken Penders's one with Joffrey. But don't worry, we haven't seen
You
Joffrey
mean
in a
his
very
fan
long
fiction
time.
insert?
Yeah, we have not seen Joffrey in a while, which is fair. Not many people like him, even now. So
Oh
it's like
no.
kind of chill it on with this character. And it's like, okay.
Yeah.
So, Knuckles does the one thing he is well known for, and just diving straight headfirst into the roboticizer because, hey, he doesn't need a plan. He's just gonna punch his way through it.
Yeah. And Knothole is currently burning.
And, yeah, Tails is basically hiding out, trying to avoid Sonic at all costs. And as Tails goes to get away, Mecha Sonic basically comes up right behind him and goes to shoot, but he can't because because there's still Sonic somewhere down in there. And Robotnik even like calls him on his communication device going, "Oh no you don't." It's like you are going to listen to my direct words and you are going to shoot that child.
Shoot the underage teenage child.
And he
Do
goes,
it.
I can't.
Kill
And he
him
goes,
now.
well, then send me your current coordinates right now. And Sonic pauses and goes, okay, I will send you the numbers. And then Mecha Knuckles shows up and punches him so hard that it like stops the communication. So I don't think I've ever mentioned this, whether in these podcasts or even to you. I really like Mecha Knuckles as a
Oh,
design and
he's
as a
so
character.
cool.
Um,
He's so cool.
even though
His Lego shoes make sense.
like Neo Metal Sonic is far more beloved of robotic duplicate character. Tails doll is just funny because of its like cultural like tie. Mecha Nichols gets no love, and I don't know why. If you have ever read this issue, like you could probably surmise why I like Mecha Knuckles as a character. Like disconnected from Knuckles, he is actually a really cool guy.
Oh yeah.
So Sonic and Knuckles, in their mechanized form, just start fighting in midair, Dragon Ball Z style. And everyone's just like, should we get out of here? And it's like, well, there isn't too much we can do. All we can do is basically like make sure that everyone's okay, everyone's evacuated, and get out of here. And it is then interrupted by a two-page spread of Sonic using his undermounted like hand lasers and Knuckles is just like blocking it as uh as he does. As Knuckles then explains what his abilities are while he's mechanized. His entire body is a neodymium magnet. So he is constantly coursing with electrical energy, just creating a an electromagnetic net around him, making it very hard for technology to affect him. And I'm like,
And it's almost like he's got a guard against that internally or something.
and as they're fighting, basically, Knuckles throws Sonic so hard he basically creates a crater in the ground, and they're just fighting as Knuckles goes, okay, let's see how well this works. Focuses all of the magnetic force into his claws, reverses the polarity, punches Mecha Knuckles in the chest, and then an explosion happens. I am I am summarizing like several pages of actually really well drawn fight scene, and it is all brilliantly drawn. Like it is a really great looking scene. Maybe a little bit too heavy on the inking in like certain parts, but I'm also reading from like a really old scan of it where maybe it just like wasn't like scanned in properly, but like for me a lot of the inks just look a little bit weird. But yeah, this
They look old,
this
but they look
whole like
like
art is just amazing. As okay, so Robotnik, several a while later, comes up out of the ground. Oh, I forgot to mention what happened. So Mecha Knuckles and Mecha Sonic transitioned from fighting at Knothole to punching each other so hard, basically doing that like Superman rush punch where he punches and then they appear at another location. Uh,
oh yeah.
where they're now fighting in Robotropolis. Like, because that's how hard that they were hitting each other, they just flew all the way over there. So when the explosion happened, it actually knocked out like Robotnik's base, as he basically just comes up out of a manhole going, "Well, that was the biggest backfire of my career."
That's like I should have thought about the ramifications of my actions. Now
And
to not think about the ramifications of my actions.
as he is basically coming up out of the rubble, he sees Mecha Sonic like all beaten up and like but still functional, basically crawling out of the debris as well. And he goes, badly damaged but repairable. Can I build a bot or what? And in the corner of the panel is Knuckles' fist going, or what? As he just uppercuts Robotnik in the face.
And then take Sonic.
And he goes, I'm taking this bye.
And Knuckles, cause like because like Robotnik is shocked that this older roboticizer worked. And Knuckles says, "Well, I guess you don't build them like you used to."
And he goes, and this is word for word what he says. I was roboticized by one of your old units, built before you started using inferior foreign parts. Not only that, but Mechasonic so unselfishly turned himself in front of me as we took the hit. That is how I survived. I'm sticking to that story. And I'm like, interesting. Interesting that that's the reasoning for why Mecha Knuckles is the way that he is because of the roboticizer that he was used with. Which probably explains why Bunny is able to like which probably also explains why Bunny is able to have like fine control over like her her roboticized like components as well. It's just that because of the way that they're roboticized, they have a little bit more control over the functions of their robotic parts. And it's like, okay, that's a bit interesting, but we're gonna just like keep that in like the back of our minds for later for other roboticized creatures that were really old. And as we move forward, Robotnik has a lot less care over functionality, and he has a lot more focus on making sure that he has total control over them as a unit.
Yeah.
So Uh, Mecha Knuckles drops Sonic in front of Sally as Sally is crying and is so happy that they're back. As Knuckles very nonchalantly says, "Your boyfriend's in a bad shape." And,
Yeah. And he's right. He Sonic is doing really bad.
yeah, and so Sally basically gets Sonic and gets Knuckles. Knuckles basically starts shoving himself back inside the roboticizer. As Sally's like, "Okay," I was like, "We'll stay here, make sure everything's good." And then Rotor notices something. Sonic still has the magical aspects of the ring inside of his body, which is what of the 1 billionth ring, which is why he's not able to be fully roboticized. And it's like, what? And it's like, yeah, Sonic's now a magical creature, not a like a real physical creature anymore. And so all they
That
did
will come in
was
handy.
was connect him up to Nicole, run a certain program, and then Mecha Sonic explodes into his rings, and then Sonic's back to normal. And it's like, what? It's like, there we go. Uh, and Knuckles at this time is back out of the roboticizer as they're just like fighting over stuff as Sonic doesn't want Knuckles to take all the credit, but Knuckles also knows that Sonic was being kind of an idiot. And then Knuckles basically
Yeah.
heads off as Sally's like, "Wait, I still need to talk to you about stuff." Okay, okay. And
Yeah,
Sally turns to
he needs
Sonic.
to talk about information.
Yeah, Sonic Sally turns to Sonic, and before she could really finish her sentence, Antoine has already put him into handcuffs.
Yeah, because he filed out those forms for Sonic's formal arrest.
Uh so the B sides of the B and C sides of
And even
Mecha Madness
Sonic, yeah,
have absolutely
even
nothing to do with later things, and we are just gonna skip over them. Let me just explain what happens. Some dumb character we're never gonna see again named Mammoth Mogul gives his whole backstory, and then he just disappears. Goodbye. We'll never see him again. Goodbye.
it would be a shame if he turned up too. He had
Yeah.
a dumb plan, but he'll never show up again. The end.
Uh, and then the seaside is the 40 Fathom Freedom Fighters having a little adventure by themselves because by popular demand they have been brought back, which they have some
I'm
fans.
glad they came back. They have me. I'm their fan. If the 40 fathoms have no fans, I am dead, sir. I am dead.
So I'm gonna preemptively give this issue a platinum.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Same
It's
as
one
well.
of the best specials. Yeah, it's one of the best specials. Fight's really good. It ends in a not anticlimactic way, which a lot of comic issues have been doing. And plus it has consequences.
Uh, this is all presumptuous, but 30 but Mecha Madness would actually probably beats out the issue 50 for me. It's gonna be a tight race maybe, but I still think Mecha Man is like up there and still deserves to be up there in like the greatest issues of Sonic from this
Yeah.
classic era at least.
Uh-huh.
So I'm gonna quickly go over a few things. One, issue 40 starts off with like a whole like recap of everything that we have done that we have seen in the last two issues. And Sonic is currently in prison. Uh, we are told that this is written by Mike Gallagher and drawn by Dave Manick, which is very classic Sonic. Like you instantly like
Oh yeah.
feel the classic vibes like dripping off of this issue. And I am gonna just say what I wrote in my notes because I think it's actually kind of important. After everything in these past few issues, the levity of these of this issue were much needed. Uh, the classic
Oh yeah,
Sonic
especially after
isms,
the last two.
yeah, the classic Sonic isms that I felt that were lackluster before in earlier issues are a breath of fresh air to the drama-filled issues that had been the last like I want to say like 10. And it feels really fascinating to kind of like to look at all this. So Sonic is currently in prison. Amy is currently right
Uh-huh.
outside of his window protesting that Sonic needs to be freed. And Sally
She
and Rotor,
starts screaming Shawshank, which is the funniest thing. It's like I don't think you're old enough to see that film, small child. Where did you learn that name?
Sally and Rotor are outside the prison, not because they're observing Sonic, but because the prison is actually a backup storage shelter for like a lot of their stuff. And it's like, oh, and it's like, yeah, so we're gonna use a lot of this stuff to like rebuild the houses that were destroyed and like make sure that we still have all this tech. And Rotor, like I didn't mention in the previous one, but there's this really great moment where it's like, is Sonic okay? And the Rotor is like, well, I would be able to take him to my lab to run tests, and then gestures to like the burning building. And it's
Yeah.
like, I was like, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
might be a little bit hard. Um, Sully goes right up to Amy and tells her straight up, I cannot pardon him. He's being charged for very serious crimes, and he needs to answer for them and atone in whatever way he needs to. And Amy does not take this well.
Probably because she's a 10-year-old girl.
Uh, Sonic is then brought before the Kangaroo Court, literally. Is presided
Yeah.
over Hip and Hop from like way back in issue 6, which I think we
I
kind of skipped
just
over them.
realized something. Is that Sonia in the juror's box?
Uh, that might be, huh?
What's she
That
doing here? She
that
doesn't
might
even
also be
exist.
Amy. That might also be Amy. I'm not sure though,
It
because can't really.
might also be Amy, but she's not. She's wearing shorts. I don't. It's really hard to see, but I'm like, hold up.
No, I think that's Amy.
Okay.
But Amy's designs, if I remember correctly, were directly inspired off of Sonya, because you could definitely tell like with the like wisp of hair in front of her and the and like her more uh, I'm trying to put this well, but it's she likes things that are more feminine. I don't want to put it
Yeah.
into like a weird way, but it's
I think
definitely
that's the
like
safest way to put it.
is that Amy and Sonya are basically like very clearly like based off of each other, and the Amy that we now have is a lot closer to the way that Sonya was depicted in Underground, but with a lot less
Yeah.
of the baggage that old Amy and Sonya had. Uh Personally, I kind of wish that Amy was a lot more like Sonic the comic, in which she was a very violent lesbian, but hey, that's just me. Uh
You know what? We can't all have good things.
uh so Sonic is sitting there going, okay, so what's gonna go on then? And Sally decides to walk out in full regalia with like the scepter and crown and everything, going, I am serious when I say that we are doing this the correct way. And it's like, uh-oh.
Yeah. Yeah, because she can't show any favoritism.
Yeah. And Antoine then immediately comes in going, I am the prosecutor. Points to Sonic. He did things bad, send him to jail. And it's like, is that your whole argument? Yes. Oh. Uh, there is a there is one panel each for him questioning each of the freedom fighters of like their perspective on it, and they get like one word out, and then he goes, "Thank you, we're moving on." It was like very like stacked courts type of thing where he's like, I'm
Uh-huh.
making sure that only my opinion gets through. Sonic cannot speak. And there is a very famous panel of of Antoine yelling at Amy, basically saying, "Is it true that you charged this badger $5 to join the Sonic fan club?" And Sally like leans over in the chair, going, "Are you literally badgering the witness?"
As like this 10-year-old girl is sobbing.
And he then sits in the chair and goes, "In conclusion, I call myself to the stand, and I was the counsel who said that Sonic was dangerous. And he then burned the village. I think that he should go to prison for life." And Sully's like, "Okay, okay, Antoine, you've made your case. Sonic, you may now stand." And he goes, "Okay, Antoine, where the heck were you for like most of the time? And he goes, what do you mean? And he goes, how did Knack get into our exercise room to hit me with a dumbbell? Um, it's like, were you doing other things? As he hides his coronation planning stuff that he like made a joke about earlier, he goes, no. It's like, and it's like, Antoine, were you literally like overlooking your duties for no reason other than you were being petty? And it's like, kind of. And then I was like, I guess we'll discuss this later. And then Sonic is like, okay, so you can take the cuffs off now. And Sally's like, no, no, you're still guilty. What? Yeah, you're still guilty for burning down the village. And he goes, oh my gosh.
She's right though. He
And
did burn down the village.
and Sonic then basically rips his cuffs off, going, okay, I see that I've wasted enough time. And it's like, Sonic, what are you doing? And it goes, listen, I'm gonna put this monitor on myself so you can see what I'm about to do. He then heads into Robotropolis, beats up all of the like old badniks, and actually like a pretty like funny scene where it's like they're like trying to do little like old bits, but Robotnik has clearly thrown these guys out and like hasn't used them in a while. So he basically like beats them all up, and then he grabs the head of Caterpillar and he goes, okay, where's Knack the Weasel? And he goes, probably at the bar? As he then goes over to the bar, and there's this massive gorilla just sitting there going, hey, I want in. And then the gorilla slaps him so hard he flies out of panel. And he
It's
goes,
quite funny.
I was like, okay. And then hits the gorilla flying through the wall. So he's inside and he goes, okay. Everyone out, I need to talk to Knack. And Knack is standing there in a snazzy jacket. And he's like, I don't know what you
That
mean.
that 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 I don't think he ever wears again, which is
And
such a shame.
and Knack has his hands up going, okay, okay, I'll talk. And then his actual set of hands come out from inside of the jacket and sprays him with a gas gun. And I'm like, what a what a clever use of a gag. I am surprised. I'm surprised, Knack. This was actually a really great like ambush strategy. Not sure why you had fake hands planned, but hey, it probably was to do with like you playing poker a little bit ago. But I don't know. And Knack basically uses the moment to get out of there as he's calling Robotnik, going, "Hey, I know exactly where Sonic is right now. You can use my information to bomb him." And it goes, and Robotnik goes, "How do I know that Sonic isn't on your vehicle right now?" And Knack goes, it goes, "Nah, you could be sure that he's completely knocked out," as Sonic is like crawling out of his satchel on the back of his vehicle. And he knocks out Knack. He uses the vehicle that he is driving as a self-propelled bomb to blow up Robotnik's base. Brings Knack before Sally, and just slaps him on the ground, going like, "Okay, here's Knack. Arrest him, put him in jail." And it's like, Sonic, what did you do with your tracking device? Oh, I had to retrofit it so I could use it so I could use it as a gas mask filter. It's like, how how did you know how to do that, Sonic? I was like, don't ask questions. And
Don't ask questions we'll never answer.
Rotor takes the slightly still incapacitated Knack into the jailhouse. And there's this moment where Sally basically falls in love with Sonic again. As she's just like, oh yeah, this is why I really liked Sonic. And there's this really like nice moment where they're having a moment with each other, and then they walk outside to see that Antoine is still Antoine is preparing the band to march behind his float, because Antoine is still really down for for when he is hailed as the true commander of the military, and Sally's just like, uh, sometimes I don't even know why I keep you guys around.
Also, this is the first time Sonic spends time in jail. It will not be the last time he spends time in jail.
And that's oh my gosh, I forgot to actually switch over the issue images, but so that's all of the issues that we had. I'm guessing that what did you give issue 40?
It's definitely a silver. It's funny. It's not as good as the previous chapters, but it's hard to compete with platinums.
Uh, I would agree. I give it a relatively low gold, just because I really felt like this issue was a very great breath of fresh air when it came to like all the stuff that we had just been through, and I feel like it's really good. I could probably bring it back down to silver though, uh, but I'm gonna just leave it as gold for now. I might think about it by next week. Either way, did you have any remotely any other thoughts on the comics that we read?
Oh no, I think we said them all.
It's it's really interesting because there is relatively low to almost no problems in Mecha Madness as a I want to say as a three part issue where it's the build up, the actual comic, and then the aftermath. I feel like that this set of three issues is stronger than any of the miniseries that Sonic has ever done in the classic era. Like it's such a strong moment in classic Sonic that it lives in the back of my mind still to this day. Like even when I do projects when it comes to Sonic characters, I always think about Mecha Knuckles and his electromagnetic fists. I think about the dynamic that Sally has with Sonic and in these issues where she's just like, I love you, but I'm also not taking any of your crap, you know? It's like I'm not going to
Yeah,
just go easy on you just because I like you. Um Antoine's just incredibly petty dynamic with Sonic and uh and I feel like the only character out of this entire thing that didn't get a moment to shine is Tails. And, he gets almost the reverse of that, going no, we're still gonna deride Tails because he's still a kid. And I'm like, oh, right.
well, to be fair, he has had a couple issues where he did have the spotlight.
I don't think that Tails ever really gets a good spotlight in Sonic until after the Adventure series. It takes a
Yeah,
while.
it
We're
does.
into the 3-digit numbers and then Tails gets a good moment. It feels kind of sad. Anyway, I think that these were some of the strongest issues that we've had so far, besides 38. It's a really good story beat, these 5 comics at least.
Yeah.
Let me just double check because I was looking at them a little bit ago, but I could be wrong. Um, yes, I do believe the Sonic Quest miniseries is next week. That's neat.
Okay.
So it's
Yeah.
issues 41 the miniseries and then 42. Uh
Yeah.
yeah, pretty cool overall. Anyway, I guess that's it. See you later, everybody.
See ya. Bye.